I envision a world in which women of color are seen in their full humanity in every healthcare encounter. I am 21, living my young adult life in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I just got my first apartment in a 5-story building with red carpeted hallways and Art Deco sconces, and the smallest elevator I've ever seen in my entire life. My apartment is small. It's a studio with a kitchenette, but it's giving purple royalty on a budget. There's an impending storm, and I decide, well, I should probably go out and get some necessities just in case. You know, the adult thing to do. Walk out of my building, and I feel the brisk cold air against my skin, and I love it. Standing at the corner, I decide to wait for the light, which is out of the ordinary because growing up in New York, after you learn how to walk, you learn how to jaywalk. I am stepping off of the curb, and wakata, I am on the ground. Tears come streaming down my face, and the only thing that I can say is that you hit me with your car. A passerby comes to console me. The ambulance takes me to the nearest emergency room where they perform their standard motor vehicle accident protocol. After hours of being in the emergency room, Dr. Ben comes in and says, well, you don't have any broken bones or fractures. You're gonna have a pretty gnarly bruise. Everything seems to be okay, but we will keep you for observation. I am in this very cold, dark, sterile hospital room, and I'm trying to make sense of it all because I didn't even jaywalk. I take a week and a half off of my new job at a different local hospital, and Dr. Ben was right. My bruise is pretty gnarly. All shades of black, purple, and blue. I go about my young adult life, and 3 months later, I feel like I got hit by a truck. I make my way to another emergency room in Center City, Philadelphia at 11:30 p.m. at night. I walk in, and it feels both chaotic and cold. I walk to the triage window, and the nurse says to me, "What are you here for?" I am in pain. Nurse Becky barely recognized my presence and begins to take my vitals. She puts a patient ID on my wrist and tells me, "Have a seat, you'll be called." What feels like an eternity, Nurse Becky with the red hair then calls me back, and I tell her everything that I'm experiencing in my body. She looks down at me and says, "You know, we get a lot of people in here wanting pain medication. This is not the place for you to get care. You need to follow up with your primary care doctor. I can give you some pain medication to last you for the weekend, but that's it." Wait a minute. Did Nurse Becky with the red hair call me a drug addict? I walk out of that emergency room with discharge papers, Percocets, and feeling completely dismissed. My primary care's office is hot and crowded, and I'm waiting 20 extra minutes to see her. I finally get into the room, sitting on the cold examination table, telling her everything that I'm experiencing in my body, and she looks at me like I have 3 heads. And with uncertainty, she says, well, we can do some tests, and I can refer you to a specialist or 2. Another sterile examination room. Dr. Ben, the neurologist, comes in and has a surprised look on his face and says, you're too young to be in this office experiencing all of the symptoms that you're having. But by the way, everything came back normal. I don't know why you are having pain, but here's some gabapentin. We'll start you off on a very small dosage and work our way up. Another cold examination room. This time, I'm meeting with Becky, the rheumatologist. I go about explaining what I am experiencing in my body again, and she reprimands me by saying, pain is subjective. At least you don't have cancer. The caucasity. I'm sitting face to face with Becky, the therapist, in a bright room on a cold, uncomfortable chair. I feel like Becky is about to interrogate me. Have you considered the possibility that the pain that you're experiencing may be psychosomatic? I mean, all of the exams and doctors you went to, they couldn't find anything. It all came back normal. Perhaps you have a high level of stress, anxiety, maybe some depression. My recommendation to you is I'm going to prescribe you with Elavil. We'll start off with a very small dosage and work our way up. I am frustrated. Nobody hears me. Nobody sees me. Nobody believes me. This cycle goes on and on and on for 7 years. Until one fine day, I meet Dr. Ben, the rheumatologist, who gives me a diagnosis. After he pokes and prods me, he says, you have fibromyalgia. What? You're going to have to live with it for the rest of your life. Here's a prescription for Lyrica. What do you mean I have to live with this for the rest of my life? I've been living with it for 7 years. I find my way to another pharmacy to fill another prescription, and I have the prescription bottle in hand, and I say, enough. I am taking charge of my own healing. I find holistic practices like meditation, Reiki, nutrition, yoga. I put them in my toolbox and I start to feel more like myself. And 24 years later, I hear other women of color being dismissed and having the same healthcare encounters that I did. Now I know the purpose to the pain. My name is Syrretta Martin. I am the founder and CEO of Collective Healing. a health and wellness community for women of color journeying towards healing. We promote healing through kinship because, as the late, great Bell Hooks wrote, healing really occurs in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. And we are all deserving of empathetic care. And so every woman of color who has ever been dismissed, dissatisfied, or disrespected in any healthcare encounter, I see you, I believe you, I hear you. Thank you.